Hello, I'm Rebecca from History, Myths and Legends, and today I'm going to be talking about researching. So, when we have our projects or we have an interest that we find, we need to research it. That's the only way we're going to obtain the information. And how we go about that can vary depending on you as a person and what you really are wanting to do. And the vast majority of sources that are available to us are absolutely free. They just take time and energy to set aside some time to really look in, because sometimes it does take a little bit of a while to find the information that you're looking for. So we have a variety of ways that we can find information, and obviously the internet is a huge resource to us, and every single year there is much more available online than previously. So a word of warning for anyone who is under the age of 18, be careful with some of the searches that you do, because some of the things might come up which you might not want your children to see. So supervision by an adult is always recommended for young people and children who are researching history. But Google is a good place to start. You can put some very random information in and you should get some results. Be warned about AI, it's not always accurate. Quite often now, when we put a search into Google, we get a little paragraph which is AI generated. And what AI does is it picks up sources of information from lots of places and comes up with its own conclusion. There have been occasions when I've looked at it and it's been correct, but there have been many others when it's not been correct. So don't rely on the AI answers, find the information yourself. It could be that AI gives you a direction. Quite often when it comes up with little things, there'll be a little marker next to it where you can click and go to the original source and just cross-referencing that. The National Archives have got a huge amount available online now, and it's free. The majority of it's free, and there are resources, recordings, and all sorts of things that you can look at on there. Um, Local history groups are great. You get loads of information on local history groups. People who live in the area or have lived in the area are brilliant resources, because they know things that you wouldn't be able to find online or in writing. Your local museums. I love my local museum. I'm in Chatteris Museum a lot. Their resources and archives are amazing, and their curator is really good and willing, along with their volunteer team, to help people out by looking for things. Books, watching documentaries, and there are even some films or theatre productions which will give you a good indication of history. Be careful though, because theatre productions and films, etc., will use poetic license to make it look more dramatic than it actually was. So take that with a pinch of salt, but use it as something that may be able to guide you. Now, the most important thing when we are looking at information, there are two things that are very important, is to acknowledge your source. So if you are reading a report that someone else has spent a lot of time putting together and you're using information from that, then if you are going to present something to our group or put something together for someone else, acknowledge where you got it from. And you don't have to write, I read this from, and then a long paragraph on where you got it from. Just the name and document or a link to the document is sufficient. Someone could have put a lot of hours and time into putting that document together, and it's very, very important that we acknowledge that. The same as if you find some information from the National Archive, acknowledge where you got it from, so other people might be able to go back to the original source document and look into it. The other bit of information that's really important about researching is that history has a lot of knowns and unknowns. So we know something happened here and we know something happened here. I previously used the term poetic license on my introduction, and that was the incorrect term at the time that I used that. We have to fill that gap with our informed opinion, not poetic license. Poetic license is different, and I apologise for that misquote. So we are forming an opinion on what happened between A and B, and how we form that opinion is based on our own experiences, our own knowledge, and the knowledge and experience of others. And it's important when feeding information back, we are saying whether it's factual, opinion, or likely, so that we're not misleading others. So we know that X happened in 1646, for example, and we feel this is because XYZ, and this is based on the fact of 1, 2, 3. And it just gives the reader or the person who's receiving the information the information that you are making an informed opinion, or you are making a best judgment based on the situation, and actually it's not factual. As time goes by and we learn more and more and more, we understand more about what has happened in the past. And there have been things that have occurred previously where we were misinformed. One thing, for example, is Boudicca. We called her Boudicca for a number of years, and that was what we felt her name was. But as research has changed, we now know that she was probably called Boudica, not Boudicca. And it's important that we state we feel her name was Boudica. We don't know that for 100%, but based on documents that have been found, or information that's been found, or research, that's what we feel that her name was. And that's what you need to do. You need to be very careful with how you present your information so people know whether it's opinion or fact. We also make this judgment between A and B. We fill the gaps in based on our own bias. We all have an unconscious bias towards everything. We base our opinions on our upbringing, our community, our culture, what we've learned, where we've read. If you've been to a certain school or education facility, you will have learned in a certain way. Our own religious background, our own feelings on things, they will all impact on how we interpret information. And we have to be aware of that sometimes we need to try and take a step back, and see if we can think outside of those influences about what actually could have happened, which is not an easy thing to do. So it's just some information about research. I hope you find it helpful. Please enjoy your research, stay safe, visit lots of different places, your libraries, your museums, online national archives, local hobby websites, Googling information. You might find a random snippet somewhere. Social media, Facebook groups, speaking to people in the village, especially older individuals who tend to be more and know the tales of the local area. If you find a myth that's come out of somewhere, dig behind it, because sometimes there is a teeny bit of truth behind some of these myths, and that might lead you in the right direction. But most of all, have fun with your research. Research can be incredibly frustrating and fun. When you finally hit that golden nugget and you find that piece of information you've been looking for, is wonderful. You can present if you're taking part in our project, you can present your information however you like. You can send a report to Rebecca at historyml.co.uk. You can send some photographs. You can upload things to our Facebook group. You can do a video recording. You can do whatever you like. Whatever you found is interesting and it's important, and it's helpful to share that amongst other people so other people can learn what you found out as well. But just make sure that we are acknowledging the source, especially if someone's taken a long time to write something, and that we are careful with our research to ensure that it is opinion, fact, or likely to have happened. Have a lovely afternoon, and I hope this helps. Thank you. Goodbye.